New York City, didn't you, Dano?
Are you kidding me? I was so impressed watching that. My monitor's above the camera. Yeah. I was watching it. The producers in my ear like, we're coming up. Like, start looking at the camera. Stop looking at the cops for a second. That was very impressive. But no, I can't do that.
Yeah, do you remember, you know what was hot? Jacks. Do you know anybody that plays jacks?
These days, I'm sure they've been outlawed.
You're aging yourself
edges.
a little
In
bit,
Wisconsin,
right?
they still play jacks.
They still play jacks? If you're playing jacks right now, email us or tweet us.
Hey, Dan Bongino, let's talk a little bit about this. It looks like Axios has gotten their hands on a spreadsheet. It's a list of about 100 different investigations that could be launched if the Democrats win the control of the House. And we're going to roll some of them right here. So clearly, this is to motivate the Republicans. Hey, we got to do everything we can to make sure that they don't win. But at the same time, it's essentially a roadmap of vulnerabilities, isn't it?
You know what it really is? It is a roadmap to the full weaponization of government. And frankly, Steve, it's one of the most frightening things I've seen in a very long time. You know, this has been the Democrats' dream forever. Full weaponization of government by a couple of things. And if you go down that list, you'll see exactly how they plan to do this. It's by using judges to legislate from the bench, effectively usurping power. Using the bureaucracy to endlessly target Donald Trump, his family, and Donald Trump's interests. Not because they're targeting criminality, but because they're targeting Trump. And finally, the use of legislative committees if they take over, not to investigate criminality and malfeasance, Steve, but to create it. That's different. That list is terrifying, and that is the Democrats' dream, and anyone interested in liberty's worst nightmare.
Right, I agree, Steve. That might be what the Republicans want out, but I actually believe it's what the Democrats are going to do. And if they're going to do that, can you tell me what's in America's interest? Is that immigration reform? Is that reining in our welfare system, finding a way to pay for Medicare in the long term? Does that do anything for health care at all? Nothing. All it is we got to knock him out in 2020. Are we really going to waste another 2 years?
Well, Brian, you have to understand, like, they're not interested. Policy proposals went out the window a long time ago. They've never got over the fact that Donald Trump won the election. Right. Their sole goal at this point seems to be to represent everything that's not Donald Trump, but not to stand for anything themselves. If we lose these midterms, the Republican Party, it's going to get really ugly over the next 2 years. This is, if you think it's bad now, it's going to get a lot worse after November.
Adam Schiff will be in charge. What else would he do?
Well, and by the way, Dan, I'm not sure if it's going to work because, I mean, there's not one, as you said, there's not one policy proposal on there. And we just looked at some poll numbers showing Americans don't care. I mean, yes, that's their strategy, but in the end, their plan to beat Donald Trump has nothing to do with ideas. It's all to kill him off by investigation.
Right, and even when they do discuss ideas, they entirely flub it every time. I mean, look at their response to a very effective, at this point, I think most sound people, reasonable people can agree, the tax cut plan. Their response was so discombobulated because they had nothing to say. You had Nancy Pelosi out there running around talking about crumbs, $1,000 crumbs. I mean, has she ever eaten at a table with the average American family? $1,000 goes a really long way, I assure you.
There you go. All right. Meanwhile, Salon has a headline wondering this: Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the next Barack Obama. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, I thought about this. I'm sitting there getting ready for this. You got to wash your face in the morning, throw some Visine in your eyes because my eyes were all red when I woke up. And I'm like, you know, is she or is she not? I thought, yes, she is like Barack Obama. So I thought of two things. Number one, she plays fast and loose with the facts. She doesn't really have a firm grasp of what's going on like Obama did, so they rely on emotion. Her response to, remember, she gave the example about the military budget on that Trevor Noah show. She was completely off. She gave the example on the Palestinian situation over in Israel, had really no idea there. She even acknowledged it. They asked her about how to pay for the entitlement programs. She had no grasp at all of the economics of it. So Obama used to do the same thing. Remember, if you like your plan, you could keep your plan. And secondly, she's like Obama with identity politics. When you don't have an answer to a question about how you're actually going to pay for this expansive government you want, you return to the identity politics thing. And that was a central tenet of Obama's strategy from day one. And it worked. So yes, she is like Barack Obama. Whether she can win a presidential election like Barack Obama is completely different.
Right. Keep in mind, he was 48. She's 28. And he already had years in a law firm. He was a state senator. She is she is. I think it's an insult to President Obama to compare the two.
I think they were both community organizers.
Well, and they're both suspicious of capitalism. One admits to being a socialist. The other one was a little bit more on the down low with it. But I think they're the same in that regard as well.
Well, Barack Obama had a little more tactical skill, too, in answering questions. I mean, at one point, and listen, I've said this before, I've run for Congress. I mean this. I applaud her, what she did. She worked really hard to do that. But that you have to know stuff at this point.
Yeah.
This is a serious position in the U.S. Congress. And she's admitted in interviews, hey, I really just don't know a couple of times on these issues. You have to know stuff. That's the part of being a congressman that hurts.
Well, we know a lot about you after this interview today, Dan. We know that you wash your face in the morning, you use Visine, you had bloodshot eyes. And if there's video of cops jump roping, you're just going to stop and stare.
You're going to be transfixed.
Thank you.
I can tell. They were like, we're coming, because I'm sitting here watching the TV screen up there like that. And it never looks good on TV when you're watching the TV.
Thanks for coming in, Dan.